Hello and welcome to the Patty Pod, episode 16. Coming to you from the bedroom, it is a Tuesday evening as opposed to my regular Sunday recording. So I'm 2 days late, but hopefully not $2 short. I don't think it will be. So I had a good weekend couple days, I guess, since I recorded last. I did my usual routine. It was kind of nice to have a slightly slower week as conferences wrapped up the week before and we're getting back to normal a bit. Perhaps I sound clearer to you, or just perhaps you've noticed an improvement in the audio quality. If that's the case, it's because I am speaking to you from a microphone, an external microphone, as opposed to just using my phone. I spoke a little bit about some overly percussive P's, and my friend Dan Roman, friend and listener, reached out to me with a recommendation about getting an external microphone. He dabbles a bit in sound engineering, so he told me that this could help my plosive P's or plosive sounds, which I can only assume is some derivation of explosive or derived from explosive. I did not look that up, but that's my thinking. So I hope it sounded good. I hope it wasn't a problem before, and I hope it does soften some of those plosive sounds that you've heard before. So thanks, Dan. Shout out. I feel a little bit more professional. Also, another bonus. Had a major development in the hat game. As some of the listeners know, as I spoke about in a previous episode, I have dabbled in hats, finding new hats, finding interesting hats, trying to be, I don't know, creative with my sartorial life, as my dad would say, sartorial. I purchased a couple of berets in the fall. Prior to that, I purchased the bolero. That was the big splash. Bolero is kind of looks like a cowboy hat, but it's got a flat, wide brim, and it has just sort of a regular crown. It's not pinched like a fedora. So I have one, and it's in black, and I like it. I think it's cool. And then I have the two berets that I mentioned, but it's really quite a statement to wear these things. You know, you gotta go for it. You gotta do it, and it's got to be in the right setting. I find. Uh, but the bolero, I've never been 100% comfortable with. It's got a wide brim, about as wide as they get. And I found myself looking at pictures of different people. I first kind of got the idea from seeing pictures of the Washington Capitals goalie Braden Holtby. I don't know if he's still with the Capitals, but he was a number of years ago when they won their Stanley Cup. And I noticed he was wearing these wide brim hats, and I thought that was cool. And then superstar Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs also was wearing these wide brim hats in the last couple of years, joined by his teammate Mitch Marner, these youngsters. They're pairing them with suits, which I think looks great. I do actually think looks great. I don't wear a suit often, hardly ever these days. I was just talking to another teacher about how I had a custom suit made by Indochino. This isn't a company that makes pretty affordable custom suits, which was cool. They sort of disrupted that that industry, as they say, the disruptors. They love to use that word. So it was in my price range, and I went in there and got a custom suit. Man, I had a tremendous experience doing that. I don't know what it was. It was the winter of 2021. I was on Christmas break, and I just said I'm going to go for it because it was, not so it was actually about the same price as a regular off the rack suit. So, and I'd always kind of wanted to do this. So I went in and I got all my measurements. I don't know if it was because I was on vacation or if I was just having a real treat yourself kind of moment. I was sort of more into fashion when I was in college, especially sort of, how do I say this? Uh, People used to say dandyish at the time. I kind of had this sort of avant-garde look that I was going for, but kind of a tailored one. So I had a lot of button-ups and, kind of tailored pants. And I think the idea of a custom suit at that time was sounded really appealing. And I couldn't afford it at that age, and this company didn't exist. So I don't know if it was that deep wish being fulfilled, but I just really loved that. I remember the day; it sticks out to me. I was just like, I was really happy that day. I don't know. This does not. This is this is one of those off-brand moments a little bit for me, maybe because I'm not supposed to. I think, I think sometimes I sort of see myself as a spiritual person or something, and I'm not supposed to be that giddy about materialistic things, but I was. So I got this suit made, but I was just telling the teacher the other day I haven't worn it once. This was the winter of 2021 20 or no, sorry, 2019. It was 2019 2020. It must have been December of 2019. They take your measurements and then they send them uh, to their tailors in China, I believe is where all their suits are made, and then they come back. So it takes a little while. Well, by the time it came back, it was COVID had hit, and then it got delayed. And then I did pick it up like pretty early on in COVID, but there was nothing to wear it to, of course, during those times. And there hasn't really been much to wear it to since then. I don't. I don't know. Maybe I did wear it once. I'm trying to remember, but I don't think I have. Anyway, it's also got hockey stick liners, which I thought was great. That was one of the options. Um, but if I do wear a suit, I don't know if I'll have an occasion where I could wear a suit and the bolero hat together. I don't know if they match because the hat is black and the suit's navy blue. Probably not. Those are generally no nos. Although I think you can break some of those rules sometimes. But in any case, I've got the bolero and I've worn it a few times. Worked for a coffee shop in the neighborhood. That's always felt safe. Like a safe spot to wear it. Uh, I did see one of my hockey friends stroll by. I was sitting outside the coffee shop and I was drinking a coffee and reading, and I had the hat on. And he kind of just looked at me askance, like he wasn't sure what to make of it. Uh, so Kate doesn't like it. That'd be a fair assessment. Uh, so and I've always been a little bit unsure because it's got a pretty wide brim, and I just don't know. I've looked at 100 pictures of other guys with similar hats, and I've taken a few pictures of myself, and I'm not totally comfortable. And there's been times when I've thought, I just wish this hat's brim was smaller. So I've started looking again. It's been a while since I bought that hat. I figured maybe I can buy another one now. It's been a year or two since I bought that first one. So this weekend it warmed up. It was beret weather. And so I put on the beret. Something in the 40s and 50s is perfect because you don't have to cover your ears. It's not that cold, but it's cold enough that you want something covering your head. And I think it doesn't look strange. So it was perfect. I was out and about. I went into Manhattan. I went to the hat shop that I had bought the bolero from. That's City Hats on Houston. Popped in there, looked around, didn't really see anything that I wanted. Kind of explained what I wanted, which would be a bolero with a smaller brim. So I then went up to JJ Hats. I think that's what it's called, and this is sort of a really old school kind of classic place. I've seen it kind of written about a little bit. Popped into there and looked around. There was nothing there, and I thought, I'm back to my original dilemma or conundrum where I just can't seem to find what I want. This happens a lot with me. I don't have extravagant ideas about fashion, but I have very, very specific ones. So, I want sometimes like I wanted a jacket that wasn't a bomber jacket, but kind of similar, but had a collar, and I wanted it in like gray or navy. And for so long, like a lighter weight one, for so long I couldn't find that. All that they had were these bomber jackets with the little like elastic collar. It didn't have like the regular collar. So I can get very specific, and it can take me forever. It can be pretty frustrating to try to find something that I like. And I thought I was back in that boat with the hat, but after looking around for a few minutes, I just thought, well, maybe I can just ask these guys. I thought this question was going to be sort of a non-starter, but I asked the guy, I'm like, do you guys ever cut brims down? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, all the time. I'm like, what, really? I'm like, how much would that be? He's like, well, let's go look. And we brought me back to the back part of the store, and they had a little menu of, these alterations that you could do and the costs. And it's only going to be, I think, $40 or $50. So I was like, this is amazing. This is just what I wanted. I don't have to spend another $200 on a hat that I maybe don't like that much. So huge news for me. I got the guy's name, and so I'm wearing my beret in the store, and I'm also wearing my sunglasses. So this is a look, you I got a look going. I don't. I'm not just you know, just the regular Joe walking around. And I don't know. I think, of course, everyone in that store is wearing a hat, wearing a fedora or a bolero or I don't know, what the other, a bowler, something, a newsy cap, like something kind of unique. I mean, traditional but unique, not baseball caps. There's not a single, worker in there with a baseball cap on. So I think the guy, he was a black guy. He was probably 25, tall guy. Um, I think he kind of liked the cut of my jib. Going back to cuts of jibs, one of my favorite idioms. I like the cut of his jib, and he was like, "Look, come back. Don't just talk to anybody. Ask. I'm not going to be here next Saturday, but come back on Saturday because I was like, I can't come in during the week." And he was like, "Ask for Jose." He's like pointed, like kind of nodded at the guy, kind of surreptitiously, like he didn't want to offend any of his coworkers. But Jose was the only guy that was really gonna understand what I needed. So he's like, "I'll give you." He gave me his business card. I'm writing down diligently his instructions. Call on Saturday, say you're coming in. When you get in, ask for Jose. Tell Jose what you want, and he's going to translate this to, wait for it, the hat doctor. So I'm going to have an appointment with the hat doctor, which is so great. That's the guy's name. I feel even, like I'm really now kind of getting into the inside baseball of the hat world. And he's going to cut the brim down. I just have to decide how many inches I want. And we talked a little about how I can't go too short or it just ruins the structural integrity of the hat and so on and so forth. So I think I have a sort of similar style hat that is technically a boater. And you can think, of like, I don't know, I always think of this Renoir painting of, there's some kind of famous painting of Renoir that was like the boat party or something like that. And they have these guys, or, I guess you could think of, I think men that drive the gondolas in Venice wear these hats. It's like a straw hat. I mean, also I suppose the best reference would be like a barbershop quartet. So it's like a kind of a tan flat brim straw hat. Mine's not as sort of um, dressy, or I don't know, kind of as it's not as specifically a barbershop quartet hat. Doesn't have that kind of a band around it. Mine's a little bit more of kind of a hipster western feel. It's got just like a thin band, a thin leather band around the crown. I really like it. Its brim is a bit smaller than the Bolero, so I think I'm going to use that as my guide. So, what can I say? My long journey, my quest has maybe reaching the point of total satisfaction for where I get truly what I want, and then I could be wearing. I think I would feel more comfortable wearing it around more often. So man, I didn't even know that was a thing that you could do. I kind of thought there's no way they could do it. How are you going to open up the fabric and then close the fabric again after you make the cut? But apparently the hat doctor has got me, and I'm looking forward to that. So big news big news in the hat game, and I wore the beret as I was doing all this. Maybe that's the universe telling me to keep being myself, you know, wear the beret, and then the other hat issue is solved. I was walking around Manhattan as I was looking for this in the beret. I don't know. I mean, I don't. It's hard to gauge. Nobody certainly looks at you sideways, but this is New York. Like, nobody looks at you sideways ever. During COVID, I didn't want to take the subway, and so I put on. Um, First, what I did was I used to put all of my hockey gear in a backpack, and I would ride to the UN building in Manhattan, the famous UN building. I'd ride from my apartment in Brooklyn. It was something like 20 miles in one direction. Or no, it was probably 10, 12 miles in one direction, but that's 20, 22 miles round trip. And I would play a game of hockey, and then I would take my gear off, throw it in my bag, and then ride back. And I threw my back out, not surprisingly. And so what I decided to do, I wanted to keep playing. I have to, of course. So then after I had the back problem, I put all of my gear on, and except for my skates and my gloves, I put my shin pads on. I put my hockey pants on, and I think I maybe even had my elbow pads on, and then I put these sweatpants over the whole thing. Jumped on my bike with the helmet and the face mask, the hockey helmet and face mask. Uh, I bungee corded my stick to the frame of the bike, and then just rode. So there was this dude riding down the street with a hockey helmet, hockey shin guards, hockey pants underneath sweatpants, and a hockey stick bungee cord to his bike, and then a backpack on. And nobody batted an eye when I was doing this. Like, I didn't get 1 second look. So if no one's going to look twice at that, I suppose no one's going to look twice at a dude in a beret. But the phrase "normalize berets" came to my head. That's going to be my new hashtag. Normalize berets. I think we can do it with all of your support. We're gonna get there. So that was last weekend. I got some new sneakers that came in too. I was excited about that. They're women's sneakers actually. And people say I'm not tough. No, but they don't look too feminine. They have blue and purple, and I love blue and purple. Sometimes a little green or a little red dashed in there. It's becoming my new favorite color combination, and I'm a kind of a sucker for it. When I see it, I have to have it. And I bought these shoes. I thought they were men's shoes at first, and then I realized they were women's shoes, so I canceled the order. And I actually went and looked up, and I thought, what would I wear in a women's? Maybe there's a conversion. Lo and behold, there is. New Balance told me about the conversion, and that was the brand of shoes. I went to their website to see the conversion, and that was the brand of shoes that I ordered. So I was really excited when I figured out that could work. So I ordered them. They took a while to get here, and I was just incessantly checking that tracking link, waiting to see where my shoes were. And I think that I was thinking about it. It kind of sounds like plain old materialism, but I was so absurd that I felt much more like the 12-year-old. This is the arch theme of the podcast is about how I'm really 12. I think that's really what it's come to. I just felt like, it's like, oh my God, I'm so excited for my new shoes to come. I was like the voice I heard. Let me see if they're here again. Let me see if they're here. Check. Oh, well, they're only in storage facility. That's what I felt like. How come they haven't left the second facility of FedEx? So I was checking. I was checking constantly. But they came, and they took their maiden voyage on Sunday as I walked to my sister-in-law's for family dinner, and I do like them. I'm excited they're here. I'm excited. I'm excited because we're going to Europe in a couple weeks. In April, we're going to Slovenia and to Vienna, and this was a trip that we had planned in 2020 that was canceled because of COVID, and we just basically decided to redo the trip. We were going to go to Venice too, but I don't know why we just decided to alter it a little bit. So we're going to be in Vienna for a few days, and we're going to be in Slovenia for a few days. We're going to be in the capital of Ljubljana, and then we're going to go kind of into the country land of Slovenia. It's supposed to be beautiful in Slovenia, very green. They made an emphasis to keep development at a minimum and to have a lot of nature in the towns as well. Beekeeping is a national tradition, and many people produce their own honey. So there's supposed to be a lot of wonderful artisan honey. The food scene's supposed to be taking off a bit, and it's just kind of not overrun and not overdeveloped, so sort of pristine. And that's what we're looking forward to. We're gonna go visit some cave systems. There's a little bit of the Mediterranean coast that they were able to get. So we're gonna visit a town on the Mediterranean coast, and of course, I want to look cool, right? I want to look cool. It's Europe, you know how it is. Um, People, I don't know if they dress better. There's plenty of bad dressing in Europe, um, you know, but I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder as an American when there's this idea that the Europeans are somehow more cultured than we are. But nevertheless, I do kind of like to look, I do like to look nice. And it's kind of fun to have something cool and new to wear when you're traveling. So I was excited that the shoes came in. I think they're going to be good. And the other thing, too, is I am at an age where I won't suffer for fashion or to look cool. And I wanted sneakers that were comfortable, and these are basically running shoes, so it's perfect. I have some Tom shoes that I like. They're cool looking, but they're just not that comfortable. And I know I'm going to be walking like crazy. We always do when we go on our trips. We walk everywhere. We get, you know, twice as much walking done, 20,000 steps a day as I do here. So I definitely wanted something comfy. So I'm excited for that. Again, I guess I'm showing my inner materialism, but hey, what can I say? I'm 12. I shouldn't be expected to be any more enlightened than a 12-year-old. I ran into a friend this week who we went and played hockey together, and he came sporting a brand new mustache. I uh, I've noticed this with the young guys too. Um, I don't know. I've even seen high school kids sporting it now. And as I was watching the tournament, my cousin's kid, he's got one going, and he was on the state tournament coverage. And some of the 20-year-olds I play with, I don't. It seems unironic. I guess it's a cool thing now. I don't know. I've always, I thought about, from time to time, I've thought about mustaches, but I just don't know if I'm ready to join a bowling league at this point. I don't have the time, really, and I'm not super fond of the jackets. So I think a mustache is probably off the table for me. I also had a chance. For a brief moment, I thought about showering in a college dormitory this weekend. I know that's not a sentence I thought I'd say at 43 years old. Pretty quickly, I ruled it out. I have a friend who's in college. He plays hockey with me. Interesting guy, Ethan. Shout out, Ethan. He's a sometimes listener. I don't know if he's listening to all the podcasts, but he's definitely listening to the past. And his girlfriend, Caro for short. Shout out. Um, so Ethan and I were hanging out. We're gonna hang out after the game this week. He lives in Manhattan. He goes to the new school, and he lives in the dorms there. And I live in Brooklyn, of course, and it's a decent distance away from where we play and where we were gonna hang out afterwards. So he was like, "Well, maybe you could shower." He's like, "I'm not sure what the policy is on a visitor showering." In the dorm room, and I don't remember exactly if he has a bathroom in his as an apartment, or if it's like one for the whole floor. But I just had this idea, this image of me going, hey fellas, this old guy walking around, maybe with a little shower caddy, carrying it in and out with the shampoo and soap. But yeah, I quickly decided against it. So we ended up finding a dive bar which accepts smelly hockey players. And as it was 2 in the afternoon, that was really quite empty. So worked out well. That was about it from this week. We're rolling along. I did get a chance to. I don't know why I looked this up. I looked up Derrida. I think maybe I was talking about Derrida. And yeah, I watched this. YouTube's amazing. It has so many great videos. Today, I don't know why I did this. I just get random things in my head that I want to watch, and I'd read this article from a Tufts. It was based on a book from a Tufts professor. It was a Business Insider article about the different nations of the United States. And this Tufts professor had written a book about it. He identified what he believes are 11 distinct nations in the United States. And, it does make sense. I've been thinking about this kind of a lot when I think about Europe. Europe is a collection of whatever, however, 20 something, 30 something countries, and we all think of them as being so distinct. We think of the French as being so distinct from the Germans, who are so distinct from the British, and so on, right? And the Italians. Um, but they're all European people, and their landmass isn't that great, and they've clearly had a lot of mixture amongst their countries. But we think of the United States as this one nation, but we are huge landmass with people that are very, very different. I mean, there's obviously a lot of mixture, and I think really sort of the political differences are more about suburban, rural, and urban, and that's bore out. And if you look at the maps of the presidential elections, how it's always blue in the cities, mixed in the suburbs, and red in the rural areas. But even that being said, there are these cultural differences between the regions, and check it out, this video about the 11 nations of the United States, or read the article, or read the book if you really want to give it a deep dive. So anyway, YouTube's got this kind of stuff. I just found this video today, and I wasn't in the mood to read a whole book about it, but I love these little videos. Anyway, I was watching one about Derrida and about his kind of central themes, and I don't know if I knew this. I mean, I knew some of it because I studied him enough, but he had this love of this Greek idea called aporia, which is being confused or not knowing, especially about big issues. And he talked about love and sex and capitalism and socialism, and he sort of thought that you know being comfortable with this aporia, this not knowing, was a sign of maturity. And I talked about Eckhart Tolle, or I'm sorry, I talked about Meister Eckhart earlier in an earlier episode. His namesake is Eckhart Tolle, who is a very popular spiritual writer, maybe the most popular, or he's the namesake to Eckhart Tolle, and Eckhart Tolle is maybe the most popular spiritual writer and speaker alive today. It's been on Oprah and the whole bit, and I like him. I don't love all his stuff, but I like a lot of it. And one of the things I remember watching one of his videos on YouTube, and he was just talking about not knowing, right? Like so many, it's so easy, I think, to get when you get into some kind of a personal growth or religious or spiritual path to really try to deep dive, especially if it's made a big change. If it's helped you a lot at the beginning, and you can really get into the minutia. I know I can. I should speak for myself, as my brother reminded me. Thanks, Nick. But you're right. I should speak for myself. I can really get into that, but I think other people probably too have had that experience. So just it's been helpful for me. Again, that's sort of my mo for this with the spirituality talk. What's been helpful is just to share what's been helpful with me, and or for me. But reminding myself of that, like I don't know, like it's okay. I don't know. I don't have an answer to all these big questions, and that's totally fine. And the more I live with the kind of reflect, like I haven't known, and it's been okay. I haven't known all these 43 years, the answers to this, and it's been okay. And I know people that don't go down these rabbit holes, and they're okay too. So it's good. It's a good reminder of that for me. So I will leave you I will leave you with that. I'll talk about a little bit more about the trip to coming up. I think I'll just give you a little bit of what I'm looking forward to, which is um, I think I'm going to visit Vienna. It's funny because Vienna, I as I sort of did a deeper dive into it, I realized that there've been kind of a lot of times in my life that I've listened to work by composers from Vienna, or read authors that had been living in Vienna. So it's oddly, I didn't really think of that before we booked our trip, but I'm going to try to see some of the sites associated with a philosopher named Ludwig Wittgenstein, who was a very unique character. I did a whole independent study on one of his books when I was in college called The Philosophical Investigations. He's an interesting guy. He wrote this book uh, very much in this like kind of logic, like linear logic style when he was a younger man, and he wrote some of it while he was in the trenches of World War I, and then I think I have that correct. And then he somehow got connected to Cambridge, and Bertrand Russell, who was the world's most one of the world's most famous philosophers at the time, sort of leading the department at Cambridge. And once they got discussing these his ideas, and Wittgenstein showed him what he had written, the guy was like, "You're a genius," and basically said, "You've got a PhD. You don't have to do the coursework." So he was like a total prodigy genius. And then he had basically said he had solved all the problems of philosophy. So a humble guy too, with that work. And then he kind of quit. And then at some point, he became a school teacher. He taught kindergarten, I believe, elementary school for sure. And reportedly, it did not go very well. He had a lot of conflict with the parents. He was really not very kind to the students. Um, and then at some point, he decided he was going to write a second book, which almost completely sort of refuted his first book. And his second book was considered even more outstanding, and is to this day one of the most celebrated texts in the field. So I'm gonna go check out some of his. There's only like one real site associated with him, which is a house that he designed for his sister. After he wrote his second book, and after he left teaching elementary school, he dabbled a little bit in architecture and engineering. And yeah, I don't know. He's an interesting guy. I mean, his whole life story kind of reminds me like you can have these outsized gifts in one area, like he clearly does intellectually, but have real trouble in other areas, like he clearly did with interpersonal relationships with these kids that he taught and with the parents and all that. So it reminds me not to be so, envious of famous people or people that have a lot of notoriety. I'm gonna probably try to catch Brahms's Grave. I'm a huge fan of the German Requiem. It's probably my favorite piece of music. It's up there. It was a favorite of my choir conductor who passed away sadly this summer, and we did that piece. It was a very ambitious task that he took on when I was in college, but we did the German Requiem with the orchestra, and I think that another choir joined us, and I loved every minute of it. And I was so glad that he took that on. I loved rehearsing it. I loved performing it. So I'm going to try to find Brahms's grave, and maybe I'll do a little tribute, something I can leave there that would be some kind of a token for Peter, my old conductor. So that's part of the plan. Maybe there's coffee houses that are supposed to be exquisite, and I'm really looking forward to just sitting in the coffee house and doing nothing. Um, I had a moment this week of doing nothing, a couple moments, and it felt really nice when I actually like hanging out with my buddy and I wasn't rushed for a minute. Um, I had that also too this week and last week. Last week I had to go to the doctors. I thought I needed a vaccine update. It turned out I didn't need it, but I was sitting there in the waiting room for a while, and there's something about being in a waiting room at a place where I'm the most calm and focused that I ever am. I mean, I am focused at work, but I'm calm. Like if I am out doing something and I'm doing something I'm supposed to be doing, like going to the doctor, or this happened to me when I was waiting for Kate outside of the Trader Joe's in this shopping complex in Brooklyn called City Point. They have a little food court, this cool food court with a bunch of like local. It's all local Brooklyn places that are notable food vendors and restaurants, and they have little stands and stuff. Anyway, I was down there, and I guess it's because I was out doing things and doing something I was supposed to be doing, taking care of business. But I was waiting, and I could just read, and I was so calm and peaceful, and I was reading this book, like really just focused. I wasn't trying to check Twitter, trying to check Instagram, and wasn't flipping through channels. I was just satisfied. And I don't know what that is. I think I just got to start making appointments at places and getting there early, because when I get in that space, it's like the best. I'm so happy to be there. So anyway, but no, back to so the plan for the trip. I think I'm gonna try to do a little bit of Beethoven, maybe. I don't know. Maybe some Mozart sites. I'll probably go to the Mozart house. Um, you know, people call me the Mozart of hockey all the time, so I probably should see some Mozart stuff. Just kidding. Nobody calls me the Mozart of hockey, although not even me. So, but that's the plan. Hoping it's good. I'm hoping all of you had a great week. I hope this was not $2 short, even though it was 2 days later than usual. And I hope you're well. Hope it's clear and there's no plosive P's. Peace and love.